are now tuned in to your number one radio station,
Kings 88.5 FM. Your station, your voice.
Kings 88.5.
Kings 88.5 FM.
We got the flavor.
From Radio Communications Incorporated, good morning and welcome to King's News Broom, the 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Today is Thursday, June 5th, 2025, and I'm Newton Tukwa presenting. Stories we're following this morning: U.S. Embassy and European Union delegation to Liberia congratulate Liberia on the UN Security Council on non-permanent seat election, reassure bilateral relationship, and continue cooperation on shared global priorities. Dozens of citizens sharply criticized House of Representatives' past resolution validating all legislative actions, including 2025 national budget, says the action is intended to shield House Speaker Richard Combs from previous unconstitutional efforts carried out by then majority bloc. The government of Liberia announces reopening of investigations into a series of mysterious deaths during former President George Weah's administration. Away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on the activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. 8 distribution centers in Gaza will be closed for a day on Wednesday as the Israeli military warned roads leading to the sites will be considered combat zones. These are stories we're following here this morning on King's Newsroom, but we'll take a very short break to be right back. Thanks for rejoining us and welcome back. Less than half the news bulletin. A cross-section of Liberian citizens has criticized the House of Representatives Tuesday's resolution, which validates all legislative actions taken by then-majority bloc, led by Richard Combs, now Speaker. The resolution passed on Tuesday, June 3rd, includes the approval of the 2025 national budget previously declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in April due to what the court termed as procedural breaches. The House's decision has drawn widespread condemnation, with some critics describing it as a strategy to shield Speaker Richard Combs and other members of the lower house who were members of the majority bloc from accountability. They accused the executive branch of backing the resolution in an effort to protect the Speaker's alleged illegal actions, which they argue undermines the rule of law. Meanwhile, the citizens are calling on the Senate to reject the lower house legislative instrument, describing it as an affront to the Liberian Constitution. They also argued that urged the public to turn out in large numbers for the stern organized protest scheduled for July 17 to resist what they describe as the government's unconstitutional actions and a threat to democratic principles and national peace. The United States government, through its embassy near Monrovia, has congratulated Liberia following its election to a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council for the 2026 to 2027 term. The U.S. Embassy, in a statement issued Wednesday, describes Liberia election as a significant milestone and a diplomatic progress. The statement further acknowledged Liberia's commitment to global peace, regional leadership, and international cooperation. On Tuesday, Liberia won overwhelming support by securing 181 votes during the UN General Assembly in New York. Liberia has joined 4 other countries elected to serve on the 15 member council, which is tasked with maintaining international peace and security. The Tuesday's election marked Liberia's return to the council for the first time since 1961. The embassy's statement reaffirmed the U.S. government's strong commitment to bilateral relationship with Liberia and expressed a continual cooperation on shared global priorities through multilateral engagement. However, the announcement has been widely celebrated across diplomatic circles, including the Liberian public, who view the country's election as a powerful symbol of its free or re-emergence on the world stage. The UNSC includes 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members elected for 2-year terms. At the same time, the EU dedication to Liberia has extended its heartfelt congratulations to the government and people of Liberia on the successful election as a non-permanent member on the United Nations Security Council. In a statement issued Wednesday, EU noted that the achievement is a testament to Liberia's growing leadership, commitment to peace, stability, and international cooperation. The EU dedication further expressed its profound or proud to stand alongside you as you take on this important role on the global stage. According to the statement, EU look forward to continual partnership with collaboration with Liberia to bring unique voice and perspectives on the UNSC, promoting peace, security, and sustainable development for Africa and the world. The Liberian government says it will reopen investigations into a series of what it termed suspicious deaths that occurred during the tenure of the previous administration led by the Coalition for Democratic Change. The cases honor the renewed involve the deaths of several auditors and civil servants, incidents that sparked widespread public outrage and fueled suspicions of foul play. Justice Minister Oswald Tuer confirmed that the Ministry of Justice will lead the inquiries, but will closely collaborate with the United States for technical assistance and access to critical information. This includes support in obtaining financial and communications records linked to individuals sanctioned by the United States Treasury Department for alleged corruption. The government move follows growing demands from Liberians who believe the previous administration obstructed justice and shielded influential figures from accountability. Many see the reopening of these cases as a necessary step toward restoring public trust and upholding the rule of law. Authorities said the renewed investigation may involve modeling forensic tools and the re-examination of past evidence, signaling a more rigorous and transparent approach than in previous attempts. The collaboration with the United States also raises the possibility of prosecution targeting former officials implicated in corruption and human rights abuses, particularly those already under international sanctions. Deputy Minister for Public Affairs at the Ministry of State, Anthony Kesely, has acknowledged former President George Weah's congratulatory statement to the United Party's government and other partners following the country election as non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. In a statement on his official Facebook page, Minister Kesely described the former Liberian leader's statement as a good step that signifies unity. He added that the move by President George Weah aligns with President Joseph Boakar's call to Liberians to embrace unity and work together in building the country. Minister Kesely further emphasized the need for unity among former and current leaders of the country for the nation peace building and upholding its democratic uprightness, and also expressed hope that the country's victory as non-permanent member of the UN Security Council brings tangible and impactful reality in Liberia's politics and unity among its citizens. The executive director of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, Dr. Emmanuel Yakpawolo, has called for stronger regional cooperation to safeguard West Africa's shared river systems. Speaking at the Mano River Union briefing and sensitization meeting on the establishment of the Trans-Banjo Water Basin Management Office held at the Coronian Hotel in Singapore, Morovia, Dr. Yakpawolo underscored the urgent need for collaborative action among MRU member states. Liberia. Dr. Yuri Yapalo cited rare world examples to illustrate the pressing nature of the challenges. He recalled a 2024 incident in which the Kavala River, shared by Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire, was contaminated by a mining operation, yet Liberian authorities only became aware of the pollution a month later. The EP executive director added that illegal dredging continues alone the Kavala with limited enforcement due to jurisdictional and logistical constraints on both sides of the border. He noted that Liberia has made freshwater protection a central pillar of its nationally determined contributions NDCs 3.0 under the Paris Agreement, but emphasized the national efforts alone are insufficient. Dr. Yakbaro recommended that the proposed regional office prioritize the development of clear policies and binding treaties to be implemented and enforced through the national institutions of member states. Liberian ambassador to the International Maritime Organization, Robert Kwade, has issued a stern warning to the world that climate change is not just an environmental issue, but an escalating threat to global security. Speaking at the 16th NATO Maritime Conference, Kwade urged the international community to avoid treating climate change as a distant concern and present strategic crisis plans that require immediate political action. The NATO Maritime Conference is a key forum for sharing transatlantic maritime cooperation focused on how rising sea levels increases high storm intensity and deteriorating maritime ecosystem and place new and profound strains on global security infrastructures. The conference contains a high-level audience of maritime leaders, defense officials, and climate policy experts in the coastal town of Sube, Chania, Greece. But it started a recent tragedy in Mocha, Nigeria, just 28 miles from Lake Chad, where unprecedented rainfall led to a catastrophic flooding, destroying homes and claiming lives. According to him, the flood water surged to 2,000 above normal levels, a haunting figure that stirred the room and underscored the severity of what he called a new normal for vulnerable regions across the globe. The Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia has expressed concerns following the release of the compliance audit by the General Auditing Commission, which uncovered severe irregularities in the Ministry of State's supplementary payroll system covering the period from July 1st, 2018 to March 31st, 2024. Addressing a press conference Tuesday in Cinco, Center Executive Director Anansi Miame stated that among key findings include over US 3.5 million on authorized supplementary payroll spending, payments totaling US 7.9 million, and LD 600 and that's 964,766.21 cents disbursed without proper documentation, including the severance payment made to over 647 laid off employees without authorization. Miami noted that while much of this period falls under the administration of former President George Weah, the current officials of government under the United Party are not blameless. The Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Executive Director stressed that the report revealed that within 2 months of assuming office, the current administration hired supplementary staff outside of the former recruitment processes and paid them over US 36,000 monthly using funds from the consultancy budget or without proper documentation or verification. He also called on the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission to expedite investigations into the allegations, adding that the LACC confirmed that a probe into payroll padding began on October 14, 2024, but nearly 8 months later, no conclusion has been reached. Meanwhile, Miami highlighted an ongoing early season investigation into bribery allegations within the House of Representatives. The allegations, according to Miami, are linked to the dramatic resignation of former House Speaker Councillor J. Funati Kofa in late 2024. In a related development, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Executive Director Anansi Miamen has lauded the government of Liberia for its recent accession to the Fisheries Transparency Initiative, calling the move as a positive step toward open governance. However, in the same breath, the Center Executive Director raised red flags about what he termed as persistent and worsening corruption in public institutions, especially the Ministry of State, and is urging the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission to act decisively. Speaking with reporters Tuesday, Center Executive Director Miami described Liberia's FRTI membership, formalized on May 21st, 2025, as a step in the right direction. The international initiative is designed to promote transparency and sustainable practices in the marine fisheries sector through a globally recognized set of standards. It further praised NAFA's digital presence and online lessons application system, in which, according to him, cited as an example for good governance. The center boss used the occasion to appeal to President Joseph Boakai, urging him to take immediate action on the GAC audit recommendations and ensure that those implicated, whether past or present, are held accountable. The women of the West Point market, supported by fellow marketers on Tuesday, submitted a formal petition to the House of Representatives through Speaker Richard Kuhn, calling for urgent legislative intervention over what they describe as the unlawful withholding of market authority by Montserrat County District 7 Representative Emmanuel Dan. In the petition, the women allege that Representative Dan has refused to hand over the keys and official control of the West Point market to the Liberia Marketing Association, despite a court ruling affirming the LMA's authority. The marketers emphasized that the current LMA leadership was democratically elected through a transparent process and should therefore be allowed to assume full control of the market. They further contend that Representative Dan's ongoing refusal to comply with the court's decision not only undermines the rule of law, but also violates standard administrative procedures. The marketers voiced serious concern about what they describe as a prolonged dispute, which has disrupted market operations, created confusion, and jeopardized the livelihoods of hundreds of market women, many of whom are single mothers and sole providers for their families. While affirming their commitment to peaceful advocacy, the women warn that they are prepared to engage in nonviolent collective action if the issue remains unresolved. In a quest for better education, the citizens of Yegba Town over the weekend launched a fundraising campaign for the Yegba Town Public School in Todi Statutory District. The long dormant Yegba Town Public School, located in the Marine Clan Todi Statutory District, has not been operational since 2018, depriving children access to formal education. The initiative, spearheaded by the district education officer Prince Fode, school principal Digagat Flomo, and Pee Wee Sando, is aimed at mobilizing community leaders, including parents, together in raising funds for the reopening of the Yakwa Town Public School. Speaking at the fundraising program, Prince Fode, district educational officer, said the 6-year closure has had devastating consequences on school-going kids within Yakwa Town. And that's the shift of the news bulletin. We take a break to be right back. What if you just joining us? A reminder you listen to the King's Newsroom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Stories we're following this morning. U.S. Embassy and European Union dedication to Liberia congratulate Liberia on UN Security Council non-permanent seat selection, reassure bilateral relationship and continued cooperation on shared global priorities. Dozens of citizens sharply criticized House of Representatives' past resolution, validating all legislative actions, including 2025 national budget, says the action is intended to shield House Speaker Richard Kuhn from previous unconstitutional efforts carried out by then majority bloc. Government of Liberia announces reopening of the orders of investigations in series of mysterious deaths during former President George Weah's administration. Away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. Aid distribution centers in Gaza will be closed for a day on Wednesday as the Israeli military warned roads leading to the sites will be considered combat zones. These are stories we follow. We'll take another short break. When we'll come back, we'll bring you the voices of the newsmakers.
Mr. Richard Kuhn should have a citizen arrest. Mr. Richard Kuhn have violated and disrespect the sovereignty of the Liberian people that are imposed in this government and within him. We have been calling on the radio station through media online that Mr. Richard Kuhn and the entire government were in violation of our law. There's a reason why the July 17 protest is necessary, and Richard Kuhn just validated the reason why people should come in the street July. And when the legitimize is illegality, sending a quasi and draconian resolution to the Hall of Senate. But this is a caveat to those senators. I know there are people of wisdom. They are out, and I know they will not sit there to push the country into backwardness. So we are calling on them, and they should not concur with this identical Richard Kuhn.
The action of the House of Representatives has just validated our argument that we said that all of the proceedings that the court of called the legitimate speaker Richard Kuhn was carrying on, it was illegal. And we said that money that they were using, they were illegal. The budget that they passed, it was illegal. And all the proceedings were illegal. So for them now to come up because they have been cried from all over from the Liberian people. As long as Richard Kuhn resigned the lifestyle to contest in the election that now brought in as Speaker Proper, the Liberian were calling upon him to also restitute everything that he took into illegally a use, knowing fully well that his government will not be able to prosecute him. The government will come tomorrow to be able to pick up this case to prosecute him. So they are now going to legitimize their action. This is evil. This is satanic. You cannot be as a leader all that you are interested in is to take the Liberian resources onto yourself, and then the Liberian people are in poverty. Liberian people cannot find their way through.
Some Liberians reacting to Tuesday's resolution passed by the House of Representatives. The Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, Dr. Emmanuel Yakpalo, has called for stronger regional cooperation to safeguard West Africa's shared river systems. Speaking at the Mana River Union briefing and sensitization meeting on the establishment of the Trans-Boundary Water Basin Management Office held at the Colonial Hotel in Cinco, Monrovia, Dr. Yakpalo underscored the urgent need for a collaborative action among MRU member states in Liberia. Dr. Yakpalo cited real-world examples to illustrate the pressing nature of the challenges.
We gather here today for a matter of critical importance, the management of shared water basins. But before I dive deeper into the subject, allow me to share two good stories that bring this issue to life. First, in June last year, the Cavalry River was polluted by a mining company based in Cote d'Ivoire. Shockingly, we only became aware of this incident a 4-month later. Today, the Cavalry continue to be threatened, not just by pollution, but by illegal revenue from both sides of the borders. These illegal miners treat the river as a common property, free from taking. Yet, when the authorities attempt to arrest miners from Cote d'Ivoire, jurisdictional limits make it nearly impossible. And certainly, the reverse is true for our Ivorian counterparts. Second, during the visit to Freetown, I raised the issue of protecting the Mana River, which serves as a natural boundary between Liberia and Sierra Leone. A passionate gentleman in the meeting shared how he grew up beside the river, how it runs flow, clean and clear. Today, that same river is polluted by many activities from both countries. These stories are not isolated. Climate change, pollution, and poor coordination are compounding the pressures on the river basin. I will list many more examples from messages very, very clear. There is an urgent and undeniable need for trans-boundary collaboration on resource protection, especially shared water management. We have the opportunity before us to establish support and ensure a functional MRU water basin authority. Liberia has already prioritized fresh water management in our updated nationally determined contributions, NDC 3.12.
He's the Environmental Protection Agency Executive Director, Dr. Emmanuel Yakpalo. They're speaking. Liberia ambassador to the International Maritime Organization, Robert Bade, has issued a stern warning to the world that climate change is not just an environmental issue, but an escalating threat to global security. Speaking at the 16th NATO Maritime Conference, Bade urged the international community to avoid treating climate change as a distant concern and present strategic crisis plans that required immediate political action. The NATO Maritime Conference is a key forum for shaping transatlantic maritime cooperation, focused on how rising sea levels increases high storm intensity and deteriorating maritime ecosystem and place new and profound strains on global security infrastructures.
It is really a great pleasure to join all of you wonderful leaders in this room to talk about climate change and maritime security. I'd like to thank Commander for the opportunity, the entire center, to invite me to come and share my insights on the climate change and maritime security. I don't come here as an expert. I am not an expert. I come here to emphasize and to echo the sentiments and the warnings given to all of us by the experts. I believe our experts this morning and those that will come after have done an incredible, wonderful job with dissecting effectively, brilliantly, the danger climate change poses and how it intersects with international maritime security. So I am grateful for the opportunity. I'm a politician and a diplomat, and I think it's critically important for politicians to join and rally in the call to put emphasis on climate change and the danger it poses to mankind. I think it is important because politicians are the ones who are the hands of power. They are the presidents. They are the prime ministers. Everything we talk about, we can come in this room and talk about all the strategy, all the policies, and raise all the alarm. If we don't have the buy-in of the political leaders who should make the ultimate decision, we go nowhere. So I am thrilled to be a part and to be able to speak with my leaders back home about the significance of putting emphasis on what I think is the threat to the world, climate change. So that being said, let me seize the liberty with your permission to say a few words before I share my insights. My dear friends, let me acknowledge all of us that climate change is not a disaster waiting to happen in the future. It is happening now. It is already ravaging the earth and taking its tragic toll on livelihood, even as we gather to hold this conference. Let me just share with you, on last Sunday, Nigeria witnessed a very heartbreaking scenario. This is a town called Mokra, maybe 20 miles away from Lagos, experienced a very horrible flood. To date, 220 persons have lost their life. The town is submerged by the flood. This was because of a torrential rainfall. Very, very terrible. I say this to you to tell you the essence of climate change.
He's Liberian ambassador to the International Maritime Organization, Robert Spade. They're speaking. Well, with the time have passed the hour, if you just joining us, a reminder you're listening to King's News Broom, the 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Stories we following this morning. U.S. Embassy and European Union dedication to Liberia congratulate Liberia on UN Security Council non-permanent seat election. Reassure bilateral relationship and continual cooperation on shared global priorities. Dozens of citizens sharply criticized also representatives passed resolution validating all legislative actions, including 2025 national budget, says the action is intended to shield House Speaker Richard Coon from previous unconstitutional efforts carried out by then majority bloc. Government of Liberia announces reopening of investigations into a series of mysterious deaths during former President George Weah's administration. Away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. 8 distribution centers in Gaza will be closed for a date on Wednesday as the Israeli military warned roads leading to the sites will be considered combat zones. These are stories we're following here this morning on King's News. We'll take another short break. When we come back, we continue with more developments. On this one, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia has expressed concerns following the release of a compliance audit by the General Auditing Commission, which uncovered a series of irregularities in the Ministry of State's supplementary payroll system covering the period from July 1st, 2018 to March 31st, 2024. Addressing a press conference Tuesday in Cinco, Sinta Executive Director Anansi Meerman stated that among key findings include over US 3.5 million unauthorized supplementary payroll spending, payments totaling US 7.9 million, and LD 964,766.21 cents disbursed without proper documentation, including the severance payments made to over 647 laid-off employees without authorization. Miami noted that while much of this period falls under the administration of former President George Weah, the current officials of government under the United Party are not blameless.
While we commend the government of Liberia for the recent transparency, we are mindful of the report recently released by the General Auditing Commission on the compliance audit of the supplementary payroll system of the Ministry of State for the period covering July 1, 2018 to March 31, 2024. The report underscores systemic issues in public financial management of the Ministry of State, to name a few: unauthorized supplementary payroll spending in the tune of over $3.5 million, payment of over $7.9 million, and Liberian dollars $964,766 without supporting documentation, and unauthorized severance payments to 647 laid-off employees. We note that the audit covers to a large extent the administration of former President George Weah and the previous ministers such as Nathaniel McGill, now Senator of Magibi County, and Louisa Bramble. Nonetheless, in addition to the many systemic issues raised by the audit linked to the current administration regarding payroll administration, the report indicates that the ministry under the current administration hired supplementary staff within 2 months of taking office without proper recruitment processes and paid the hires over $36,000 monthly for consultancy borderline without verification or documentation. The report also noted failure of the current administration to provide records or facilitate verification of these employees, raising concerns about transparency and accountability. Center sees this finding as disturbing, especially considering that the Ministry of State dismissed 3 senior officials in 2024 and made reports of payroll tampering. We wonder whether the ministry dismissed these officials for acts done prior to the Black administration or for those done during the Black administration, or both. We believe that the answer to this dilemma will shed light on whether the Ministry of State is truly committed to fighting corruption and not saving face by targeting those who served the previous administration. We urge the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission to take swift actions to investigate these allegations. We have reviewed the recent quarterly report of the LSCC, which indicates that investigations into payroll tampering is ongoing since it began on October 14, 2024.
In a related development, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in the Liberia Executive Director, Miami, lauded the government of Liberia for its recent accession to the Fisheries Transparency Initiative, calling the move as a positive step toward open governance. However, in the same breath, the Center Executive Director raised red flags about what he termed as persistent and worsening corruption in public institutions, especially the Ministry of State, and is urging the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission to act decisively.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, we have read with great excitement that Liberia has joined the Fisheries Transparency Initiative on May 21, 2025, a global multi-stakeholder partnership aimed at enhancing transparency and participation in sustainable management of marine fisheries through the implementation of the FIDI standard. The FIDI standard is a global recognized framework that outlines specific transparency requirements for countries in the governance and management of marine fisheries. We applaud this effort by the government of Liberia through the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority, NAFA, to promote the culture of transparency, especially within the fisheries sector. Liberia's membership for the initiative is a step in the right direction in promoting an equitable, inclusive, and transparent fisheries sector. On to be those days when policies, frameworks, agreements, processes, and reports with implications on the people in the state are shrouded in secrecy. Now is the time to nurture and value a culture of transparency across different government institutions and their services. We commend NAPA for maintaining an active website and a portal for online application for licenses. Nonetheless, we look forward to publication of more information regarding fisheries agreements, revenues, and expenditure reports, and other key information on the sector. In conclusion, we call on President Joseph N. Boakai to do the needful while acting swiftly on recommendations contained in the order if systemic issues must be addressed. We also reiterate our call for the LCs to speedily address those associated with the findings contained in the audit report, as well as those connected to the House bribery allegations.
He's the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Executive Director Anasin Miame there speaking. And away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on the activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. This comes after Kabila returned to the Democratic Republic of Congo last month amid heightened tensions between himself and the government led by his successor, President Felix Tshisekedi. The authorities are pushing to prosecute Mr. Kabila amid accusations of tracing and alleged links to the M23 rebels which have been fighting the army, something he has previously denied. Breaches of the ban could result in suspension, said the head of DR Congo's media regulator, Christian Besimbi. Responding to the announcement by the regulator, known as the Supreme Council of Audiovisual and Communication, an M23 spokesman said the media outlets in parts of the country under its control would not abide by the ban. On that notice, I would like to go home on this edition of King's News, Broom, the 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. But just before we go home this morning, let's remind you of stories we've been following. U.S. Embassy and European Union delegation to Liberia congratulate Liberia on UN Security Council non-permanent seat election, reassure Liberia relationship and continual cooperation on shared global priorities. Dozens of citizens sharply criticized the House of Representatives passed resolution validating all legislative actions, including 2025 national budget, says the action is intended to shield House Speaker Richard Kuhn from previously unconstitutional efforts carried out by the then majority bloc. Government of Liberia announces reopening of investigations in series of mysterious deaths during former President George Weah's administration. Away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. 8 distribution centers in Gaza will be closed for a date on Wednesday, as the Israeli military warned roads leading to the sites will be considered combat zones. These are stories we follow here on King's News Broom. We'd like to say many thanks to all of our reporters, correspondents, news editors who helped in making this package of sources. Better still join us this afternoon at 1 o'clock, at which time we'll be here with another edition of the program News Broom. My name is Newton Tokwa. I presented this edition of the program News Broom. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye-bye.